Okay, so we're talking about the rudder, which is a bit of an extension from last session with the cells and the motivation, right? So you have the cells, you have the rudder. Both are important in steering your direction, right? So I'm gonna call you guys sailors of the soul this week for the fourth session, just getting in contact with searching that inner knowing because it's there, right? It's always there, but we just get disconnected from it a little bit. So we have built the whole of self-worth, which is the foundation. Found our compass, right? Our values, our purpose, like what are we looking to go towards? And then last week was raising those cells, and those cells were fueled by motivation. We talked about where motivation is coming from. And so now we're talking about discernment and decision making. So that's the rudder. It's small, but it's a very large part of what's determining our direction, right? How you're steering that inner steering mechanism. And so, what is that mechanism guided by? It's guided by our intuitive wisdom, intuition, our inner knowing, right? And fear-based reactions get in the way of that. It short circuits us. So how do we deal with that? When every decision and every boundary and every pause that we take, that is our micro movement of the rudder, right? And every micro movement matters. Even a 2-degree shift can change your destination by miles. A 1-degree shift can change your destination. And so whenever I always talk about the pivot, whenever you're needing to pivot, it's always an appropriate time to do that if ever you notice that you are out of alignment with what your vision, what your values are, right? So focus this week is about cultivating that discernment, getting back to our boundaries, making healthy choices because there's um, ways. Well, I want to talk about this one way, something that's quick. People always say they don't have enough time, right? Sometimes we get caught in overthinking and things like that. So I wanted to give you something that's quick that you can do at any time of day. You don't have to have anything set aside. You could do that in the moment as well, so that we can create these small shifts to change our whole course. All right. So let me get going here. All right. So the rudder, discernment, and decision making. Now, what is the rudder in life? The rudder symbolizes our discernment in this particular metaphor. So our capacity and discernment is our capacity to choose and choose with awareness, being using our self-awareness in our choices. Okay. So it's where our will meets our inner knowing. Consciousness merges with subconsciousness, aligns with subconscious. Um, and we're translating our intuition into actual actions, into movement, being able to forge forward, okay, and not be fearful of being authentic and expressing that and expressing our true will and being in alignment with our true will. So the work that we do today is about noticing when we steer from clarity and alignment and um, when we fear making decisions, when we fear being our authentic selves and being impulsive, when that impulsivity grabs the will and changes, okay, makes changes in that 1 degree or 2 degree, okay, on our course. So, um, I talked about this before. Nothing has to be grandiose. It's the small things. It's the saying yes when I didn't want to say yes. It's the going with it even though I didn't want to go with it. Those are the small shifts that can change everything, right? So, um, small shifts can also be realigned by you taking those aligned yeses or nos, right? Establishing or sticking to your boundaries. That can shift your whole trajectory. It doesn't need to be a big move. It's just about what you believe in doing every day. Can those yeses, nos, those aligned yeses and nos, can those boundaries create what seems to be a big rift in the experience or create these big events? Yes. And I always like to use employment or not taking a job because that has to do with a lot of people's livelihoods, right? And so that can bring on a lot of worry, like, well, how am I going to take care of myself? How am I going to level up in life, right? Maybe I should just deal with it. So those are ways that we can be impulsive, we can act out of fear, and that little thing changes a lot about our life. Okay. So I want you to be focused on the small shifts in awareness, the small shifts with the intention, and how to allow your energy to realign with your purpose. And that way, in the long run, in the endurance, right? Every day you're experiencing alignment, contentment, joy. You're feeling good about how you live your life, regardless of what anyone else is saying. And so today I am introducing the 5-minute reframe, the 5-minute mindset reframe. And its intention is to help you make subtle but powerful pivots or course corrections. So your rudder, your decision maker, your inner knowing, it's both practical and it's sacred, right? It's informed by the logic. So all the cues that you're getting from your external environment, all of the experience that you had in life, right? So the patterns that you've recognized, the things that you take with you, the strengths that you have, what you know about your weaknesses, it's everything, but it's ultimately guided by your inner knowing. The red light, green light, if you ever seen like on a subway track, right? The feeling to proceed forward or to take a pause, to slow it down, that is all your inner knowing. And if you do not trust your inner knowing, then it gets kind of wonky, right? Because you're trying to figure out who can I trust? What should I trust, right? And so when you invest your energy in other individuals, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But how do you vet that source? And usually that source is vetted against your inner knowing. So your intuition is very important to the way that you live, how you live, and what you allow in your life. All right. So when you're whole, your self-worth and your compass, your values, when those things are strong, the rudder is naturally follows the current of your higher good. And so discernment is your use of inner will. Okay, it's not forcing any direction, it's not forcing any decisions, but instead you're listening, right? You're feeling out that flow to proceed or for caution. So it's a healthy use of caution. Before any choice, then so decide which steering, if it's going to be fear steering, right? Or if it's going to be your inner knowing, your intuition, you would ask, which one am I moving with here when it comes to decisions, right? And sometimes we have to make decisions quickly. Sometimes we have more time to make those decisions. But your discernment is about knowing the difference. And your body works in line with that discernment. So when you notice the cues about how your body is responding, like we talked about last week, then that plays into your discernment and being able to make quicker decisions. But you got to trust it first, right? And if you don't trust it, maybe it means you have to train it. Again, that's going to be the 5-minute reframe activity we talk about. So if you are steering from fear, you're thinking about those things. What if I lose control of this thing? What if it doesn't go the way that I think that it should go, right? And so a part of that is releasing the need to know what an outcome is. It's trusting your ability to make this decision, your ability to use your skills to steer through anything that may be resistant or a little bit bumpy, right? It's being able to steer through the feedback of disapproval. It's being able to know that maybe I don't need to fix this right now. I don't need to impulsively react to everything. Some things just need to play out, right? And when you are steering with clarity, You make decisions and maybe people don't approve, but you understand this honors my peace, this honors my values, this honors who I am as an individual. And this is going to allow me to live in peace, to live in love, right? To feel aligned, to experience flow. So when you're moving with clarity, you understand that the decisions that you make, the entanglements you get involved in, it's aligning with your values. And therefore, there's not this hyperactivity or this rigid connection to how this needs to turn out, right? There's several ways that a situation can go and reach destination. And so we don't need to be attached to this one particular thing. There may be things that we're not even aware of in our experience. It's outside of our realm of experience, but it's a pathway that still gets us to where we're going. All right. So we're able to feel comfortable loosening the reins of how this needs to look at each step. Right. But we are very confident and very committed to and very intentional about how we're feeling aligned at each step. Okay. That gives us that feeling of expansiveness, right? Not feeling tight in the chest, anxious, okay? Like we're getting involved in something, or I don't really want to commit to this. This is not something that I really wanted to sign up for, all right? Again, everything's not gonna flow exactly like you think it's gonna flow, but you experience flow because you're in alignment with your intentions. So the 5-minute reframe for discernment, we have 4 steps here, right? And this reframe is about training your rudder, your decision making, all right? So when you're faced with a decision or emotional storm, give yourself 5 minutes, okay? Have the courage to say that you need 5 minutes. And 5 minutes can definitely feel like forever when you're needing to make an immediate response. But in actuality, it's a small amount of time. So feeling comfortable to ask for that 5 minutes, even when, you know, it's involving someone else, I think that's important as well. When you have that 5 minutes, I have it broken down here. Not that you have to use it that way, but taking a minute to pause and to breathe, right? We've had some breathing techniques in these sessions before. On the website, there's some breathing techniques as well, and that's very important to calming your mind, um, calming your body down as well, and getting you in a space where you can think clearly. So you want to make sure that you center your body, and you can do that anywhere, right? If you have to step into if you're at work, you got to step into the bathroom stall for a minute, or you have to go out to your car for a minute, right? Take a hallway, but remind yourself that you have time to choose, right? Um, then you have name it. That's the second step. So what's the emotion that you're feeling, or what's the pressure that you're feeling in that moment? Are you feeling fear? Are you feeling obligated? Or does this feel like something that authentically aligns with who you are and your values, right? If it's feeling out of alignment, what type of yes or what type of no? What type of adjustment, redirection needs to happen for you to feel in alignment, right? That's that reframing kind of technique there. Is there something here that can authentically align with you, right? So what's the emotion? What's the pressure that you're feeling? What's the obligation? And are there any adjustments that can be made? And that's the reframe, right? What's going well? If it's already in the past, then you can ask in the past tense. But if you're in the moment, then you have some guiding questions, right? What's going well? What could be going better? What's the one thing that you can tweak right now? And then what do you want to continue from this situation? What don't you want to lose from this situation, right? If it's in a decision that's already been made, then that's how the questions are posed. What went well with that decision, what could have gone better. So if we're reflecting with that situation, what's one thing that you want to be able to adjust next time? And then what do you want to continue doing or continue experiencing? That's a lot of times about our strengths, and we'll talk about that in a moment, okay? But these questions turn reaction into reflection, and they fine-tune our internal compass as well. So that's the training part of our intuition, okay, and getting comfortable with that. The more we do it, the more it becomes like second nature. And I always like, again, affirming and aligning, right? I trust my inner knowing. My small shifts lead to great peace, right? That's what we're moving towards, being able to trust our inner knowing and being able to move with that space. Because each time we do this, then we strengthen the muscle of our discernment, all right? I usually talk about the pause and ask method, which is a micro check-in when I talk about the rudder. It's like a sonar, right? It's finding self and being rooted in self. Again, asking those questions about, is what I'm doing, is what I'm deciding, is that rooted in love or is that rooted in fear? Okay. Is the choice that I'm making, does it reflect who I'm becoming? Not who I was, not what I'm struggling through, but I have a vision for myself. Are the decisions that I am aligning with or making right now, are they aligning with the person that I am becoming, the vision that I have for myself, the vision that I have for my situation? Okay. And then when I'm making these decisions, how is my body responding? Am I tense? Am I open? Am I closed off? Am I avoiding things? We talked about avoidance last week. So am I in avoidance? Okay. What does my inner knowing say? Some people might say, what does my higher self know? Right? Because we kind of know. There is a time that I met a person, right? And I said directly to them, and I shared this before, oh my gosh, you're going to be the person who um, breaks my heart, right? But why would I knowingly sign on to engaging with this individual if that's what I think about, us intermingling together? Why would I set myself up for heartbreak? Why did I feel that way? Was it something that my body was saying? Was I deciding to drop a boundary? Was I deciding to take a yes that was out of alignment? So sometimes that's hard for us to admit, but we open ourselves up to certain things. We know that we shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that, right? But either there's less resistance in the moment or we really, really want this thing and it can be something that's not good for us. And then the fallout after something happens, and something did happen. So the fallout afterwards, but we knew it wasn't going to be good. So why did we make that decision, right? And I had to ask myself that. Why did I make that decision? But the experience, not that I wanted to learn it in that way, the experience taught me a lot of things, right? And again, it's not that I could not have learned it in a different way, but I also put myself in a position like this is what I chose, right? So even though the experience was dire and it wasn't something that felt good, I know that I definitely can learn from. If it's a no at the beginning, trusting myself, trusting my intuition, trusting what my mind, my body, and my inner knowing is telling me and moving with that, despite what looks good in the moment and being impulsive about my decision. And that's really what it was. It was about impulsivity at that time for me. Okay, but these 4 questions are like the sonar for our inner knowing. Okay, so the body is often able to react and knows before the mind. Like when you pass a place and you're like, oh, I don't know, you don't see anything happening, you don't see any danger, but you don't feel good about continuing forward. So you don't. The body is telling you something, okay? You're getting that tension, you're feeling that misalignment, right? Or you're feeling that ease and you're feeling that pass to continue forward. We tend not to listen to that either because of patterns. And sometimes we're like, I didn't get it right last time, so I'm going to try it again, when we actually never should be involved with it. A lot of times we get caught up in that thinking of getting it right instead of leaving it alone. Okay. So when we talk about learning lessons and then going through those lessons and those cycles again until we actually understand what should be happening there, right? Sometimes we do the same thing and we don't do anything different. And we know what they say about that. I've said that a million times. Like, what's going to be different? What's different about how you're entering the situation, right? Or how it's being presented to you, especially when it comes to relationships. Just because you've changed something doesn't mean that that person has changed something, right? And so still the way that you engage may not be in alignment, okay? So a lot of times we're thinking, if I do this or if I do that, sometimes the whole environment needs to change. And so if the environment is not in alignment, then we shouldn't engage it. Difficult to deal with, but it's something that we have to come to terms with. It's a process for each of us. So let's go into an example of shifting our perception, right? So in psychology, discernment connects to judgment, okay? And so we get this strength of seeing everything from all sides. That gives us self-regulation. That gives us the capacity to pause before we take action. And so the 5-minute reframe, that's strengthening both our discernment, our judgment, and our regulation, right? It's transforming impulsivity into intentionality, and it's supporting our nervous system in staying balanced during these choices, okay? During these crossroads when we have to make decisions. So if we're thinking of a turning point or a decision that is going to change our direction, or when we're intentionally wanting to change a direction, I am going to send out a worksheet to explore this, so you can use it as a journal page. Excuse me. We consider what's going well, right? We had those 4 questions before, and I'm going to break those down. Okay, the what went well, what could have gone better, what's one thing I can tweak next time, and what should I continue doing? I'm going to break that down right now. So when we think about what is going well, we are acknowledging effort, our courage, our awareness, right? That may be times that we're identifying some strengths in that question. And then we think about what could be going better, right? What felt off is something that we might be naming. What's something that's unclear? Where have we been reactive? Where have we been impulsive? Those are things that we could be thinking about and going over in the what could be going better section. But this is also where we can evaluate what things are within our control and what things are outside of our control. Okay. What can we tweak next time? That's about making those small adjustments in our attitude, in our timing, in our responses. Okay. This is where we can reflect on things that we are learning that will help when we're facing something similar as we move forward. This may be an identified like growth area. And that is a key phrase for weakness, right? Because weakness is not something that needs to be against us, but it's an area we have identified where there can be growth, right? We have to be intentional about our growth in the area. So it can be where we're looking at those growth areas, right? And remembering when we talked about not being afraid of weaknesses and not needing to hide them, right? But there's ways that our weaknesses kick us into levels of discomfort as well. And discomfort is always what kicks us into growth, strength, kind of looking at where we are in things, right? Causing that pivot, causing that adjustment. And then we have what should we continue doing? Okay. And that's identifying what aligns with your values, what aligns and gives you peace, what aligns with your authenticity. So this also could be an area where we're looking at strengths. strengths that we've already identified, or we're looking at our values, okay? Um, or maybe it's something new, a new strength, a new value that we're identifying and noticing that's becoming important for us. It's also important when we look at what emotion is guiding this choice. Is it fear or clarity? Okay, and this can help us identify behavior patterns as well. When this is happening, how am I feeling? When this happens, do I feel pressured? Do I feel stressed? Do I feel anxious? And then I make a choice coming from that emotion. Once you identify that, then you can identify, okay, what can I do to slow that down, to be more intentional in that moment? Do I need more space, more time? Okay. So that's where we can identify growth areas, ways to improve, ways to work with those emotions, those things that are coming up, right? In order to get out of that circle. That's what we talk about acting out of fear, which means that we're just moving in a circle. So we can look at how do we get out of that circle and then continue moving forward. So I suggest putting those questions at some point in journaling. Some people do it daily. Sometimes I think that can be exhausting, especially if you identified yourself as an overthinker. So periodically, right, at the end of something, when something's coming up and it's bothering you, you've been thinking about it a lot, maybe journaling every month, right? Especially if you're going through a particular situation. So as the frequency is good for you, then I think this is a point of reflection that can happen. And again, if we're talking about being in relationships and things like that, don't be afraid to ask for time. Even with an employer, ask for a day to think about it. And that way you can have that time set aside. You don't have to feel pressure. Okay. Why does this work? So psychologically, we're encouraging self-regulation, that reflection, and this prompted learning, right? All of those things are hallmarks of resilience, especially when we're talking about, okay, we're starting to identify what emotion is guiding us in this situation, what's coming up. And you can take a look at the past and see patterns of that emotion coming up and how we reacted to things, how we made choices, right? And that plays into changing our behavior patterns moving forward as well. Metaphysically, we're talking about transmuting the vibration of fear, being able to use that vibration, okay, of fear and frustration for empowerment, to build. Did I talk about that last week? It may have been in a post, but a couple of people have been posting around like, save the stones they throw at you. You know, you've got castles to build, things like that, right? So that's about being able to use what's meant to be negative and what's meant to distract and distort you, right? But to be able to use that same vibration, that same energy for empowerment and to keep you propelling forward. Knowing how to use that wind that's getting crazy, the storm, right? Knowing how to shelter down, knowing how to wait, knowing how to take cover, right? Knowing how to store water when the storm is going crazy, right? So transmuting that energy. And then practically, we're just building a feedback loop that strengthens our confidence, that narrows in our focus, right? And gives us some emotional agility. And emotional agility is just, again, playing right back to that self-regulation. So 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, right? Again, what's going well. So acknowledging effort, courage, and awareness. What could be going better? Identifying what's feeling off, identifying when you're being impulsive or reactive, what's unclear, what's confusing here, what's sending you in a loop, okay? What can you tweak next time? A small adjustment in your attitude and your choice and your timing, your response, right? And no response is a response as well and will become important at some point in life. It's a valid response, no response. No decision is a decision as well. Okay. What should you continue doing? So identifying those strengths and making sure that those strengths continue to be used as you move forward in your direction. And then just taking a notice of those behavior patterns. And in those behavior patterns are emotion as well, right? Being able to identify those emotions. And then that gets us into this healthy feedback loop, a healthy feedback loop. Okay, that is strengthening our confidence. We are training our focus, training our confidence, being able to trust our intuition, right? Because we have worked on training it. We've noticed the patterns. We trust those patterns, right? And we're able to point out the fallacies in those patterns as well, especially if we're able to be honest with ourselves. Sometimes we're just not able to be honest with ourselves. And that's when we have an unhealthy worldview. But those things can be worked on. It's not the end all be all. And again, these are just jumping points for you to investigate more, right? So if it's bringing up curiosities, then it's time to start like, let me look into this a little bit. Let me be more intentional about what I'm doing with myself and how I'm building myself, because how I build myself directly affects how my world shapes up, okay? Of course, closing with the affirmation, you should have gratitude with your growth. We beat up on ourselves a lot, right? So it's easy for us to say what's wrong with us. It's easy for us to say where we need to make improvements, but don't forsake patting yourself on the back and giving gratitude for the little pieces of growth, even if it's just a little bit. Okay, the one time that you made the decision. So what? If it happens, oh, I didn't make the right decision this time. That's fine, because there will be more opportunity for you to make better aligned decisions. Okay, so don't let that put you in a space of, oh, I'm never going to do right. That's not true. That's just something getting you to cop out from moving forward. Okay, so remember that your rudder, right? It can be small, but it makes a huge impact. So our daily living, the choices that we make for ourselves daily, makes a huge impact on our complete vision and direction in life. And it has our rudder as the power to steer our whole entire voyage. All right. So today we're affirming that I trust my inner knowing. I pause, I ask, and I choose with love. Okay. My small shifts steer me toward joy and truth, towards alignment, alignment with who I really am. And I feel good about showing up as who I really am, right? So next time we'll explore the cargo, what you carry, memories, experiences, external feedback, right? The release and transformation with what we carry and what we release on our journey. That's what we'll talk about next week with the cargo. Let's go ahead and end.